On a typical Saturday night, I was perusing Reddit for amusing stories to pass the time. I came across a blog post with the title, "My Airbnb Nightmare, a Warning to All Travelers." Intrigued, I clicked on it anticipating a warning about a bad rental experience. I had no idea this tale would end up being a genuine horror. The author of the post, Wanderlust18, began by expressing their eagerness for a weekend getaway. In an effort to get away from the bustle of the city life, they had reserved a cozy Airbnb in a far-off forest area. The cabin had appeared cozy in the photos, and most of the reviews were favorable. Wanderlust18 found the cabin to be remote, with no other homes in sight as soon as they arrived at the location. The closest neighbor was miles away, and it was tucked away in the woods. They believed it to be ideal for a serene retreat. The idyllic scene quickly turned sinister though. Wanderlust18 was startled awake by strange noises outside the cabin in the middle of the night. It sounded like quiet whispers and footsteps. They snatched up their phone in fear and texted the Airbnb host, hoping for a reasonable explanation. The host quickly responded, saying they had no idea who might be outside the cabin at that time. Wanderlust18 was advised to remain inside and call the police. As he called 911 and waited impatiently for assistance, panic set in. Wanderlust18 was speaking with the dispatcher when the back of the cabin erupted in a loud crash. An intrusion had occurred. They were advised by the dispatcher to hang on and, if at all possible, to hide. When Wanderlust18 heard the intruder moving through the cabin, they barricaded themselves in a bedroom and shook with fear. They whispered updates to the dispatcher, describing the intruder's movements, and the minutes felt like hours. They eventually heard the approaching sirens. The intruder was captured by the police when they arrived. Weapons drawn, Wanderlust18 had been saved, but their nightmare had just begun. An insane person who had been cyberstalking them turned out to be the intruder. They had somehow located their Airbnb reservation and had followed them to the outlying area. The perils of disclosing personal information online were chillingly brought to mind by this incident. With regard to the value of online privacy and safety, Wanderlust18's post served as a warning to other Redditors. It was a true horror story that served as a warning that the real world can still be frightening, even in the technological age. I shivered as I read the post through to the end. Being stalked and hunted in a secluded cabin brought to mind the perils we might encounter in a world that is becoming more connected. I felt a lingering sense of unease after reading this true and realistic horror story. I came across this Reddit post a few years ago, and even now, just thinking about it gives me the creeps. User Lost in History 87 posted the article with the title, "The Mystery Guy in Our Family Photo." It was a family tale, and it was as bizarre as they come. During one of those get-togethers, Lost in History 87 was looking through their family's old photo albums when it all began. They were merely looking through the standard collection of old, black and white photographs, but then they came across a picture that caused them to stop. Their grandparents could be seen in front of the brand new farmhouse in the photo, which was taken in the 1950s. Everyone appeared to be in good spirits and ready for a fulfilling life together. The real kicker, though, was that there was someone in the distance, hiding in the tall grass, dressed in a dark outfit. Although you couldn't see their face because it was cloaked in shadows, the way they appeared to be staring directly at the camera gave Lost in History 87 the chills. They therefore made the decision to consult their family. However, nobody could identify the mystery stranger. No one knew the man in the background, and neither did the grandparents remember anyone else being there that day. Lost in History 87 became intrigued by the situation and felt a little alarmed, so they began researching their ancestors. In an effort to learn more about this enigmatical person, they looked through old journals, letters, and diaries. The only thing they discovered in that farmhouse, however, were the cryptic references to a presence and unseen company. Things became stranger as they searched longer. Strange occurrences began taking place in their own home, including objects moving on their own, whispers in the night, and some crazy vivid nightmares featuring the enigmatic figure from the photograph. Lost in History 87 posted the image on Reddit in an effort to get some assistance from the community in order to find the answers they were seeking. They heard all kinds of theories, ranging from one involving a long-lost relative to another involving an evil spirit connected to the old farmhouse. The farmhouse had been abandoned for years, but they were determined to find out the truth, so they went there. It was very spooky when they arrived. The building was in disrepair, had broken windows, and exuded a vibe that screamed, "Run away." But when they went up to the attic, the real surprise struck. There, they discovered a hidden room containing additional images and strange symbols. And guess what? In one of those photos, the grandparents were present once more. But the strange object this time was much closer to them, as if it had been following them throughout time. Lost in History 87 bolted from the scene, vowing never to return because he was so terrified. Still experiencing the eerie presence, they were now certain that the stranger in the family photo wasn't just some random bystander, but rather something much scarier that they were unable to describe. The story's unanswered questions and underlying notion that some mysteries are better left unsolved were its true horrors. Despite how much they keep us up at night, Lost in History 87's post was a chilling reminder that the past occasionally holds secrets that ought to be kept hidden. A few years ago, I was browsing Reddit at night, as I usually do, when I came across a post that really frightened me. The post author, Terrified Throwaway, a Reddit user, wrote it under the title, "My Weird Neighbor's Dark Secret." I was on the edge of my seat as the story unfolded right next door. It wasn't your typical internet horror story. I'll try to describe it to you. Terrified Throwaway lived in a quiet, unassuming neighborhood where everyone knew each other, or so they thought. Mr. Johnson, the man who lived next door, had a strange aura about him constantly. He had an air of mystery about him, was incredibly solitary, and rarely spoke to anyone. The scariest aspect of this tale, however, wasn't that. Things started to get spooky one fateful night. Terrified Throwaway smelled something foul coming from Mr. Johnson's backyard. I'm referring to a smell that could turn your stomach inside out. Of course, their curiosity got the better of them, and they made the decision to conduct a small backyard investigation. Terrified Throwaway crept into Mr. Johnson's yard in the dead of night while shrouded in darkness. It was absolutely horrifying what they discovered there. Unsightly tarp covered an animal cemetery that looked like it belonged in a horror film. There was a grotesque display of dead creatures, some in various stages of decay, that would give anyone the creeps. Terrified Throwaway was undoubtedly shaken, as you might expect. They made the decision to report this strange and horrific finding to the police, as any responsible person would do. When the police arrived, the evidence they found in Mr. Johnson's basement was chilling enough to make anyone's blood run cold. The basement resembled a scene from a nightmare. It was decorated with a spooky shrine, with animal bones carefully placed, strange symbols scrawled all over the walls, and handwritten notes that seemed to be the insane ramblings of a madman. Everyone felt uneasy because of the entire setup. It turned out that Mr. Johnson had a troubled past with his mental health and had previously been associated with some upsetting cases of animal cruelty. The police seized him quickly, put him in handcuffs, and took him away, leaving behind a basement that would make any person uneasy. This tale is a chilling reminder that horror can occasionally be found right in your own neighborhood, concealed behind the appearance of everyday life. More terrifying than anything in a ghost story can be sinister secrets that your neighbors keep. The Reddit post by Terrified Throwaway made us all wonder what other spine-tingling secrets might be hiding in our own communities, making it a real, true story that will stick in your mind long after you've read it.